Today, I'm going to talk about lying. Females are too good at that because the average woman has a much higher social aptitude and is much more perceptive than the average man. They're far more adept at social manipulation. They're very good at misleading and lying to people. Women lie to everyone. Guys that lie to their family, friends, their coworkers, their bosses, their children, and even themselves. Females lie to their husbands and boyfriends for many reasons. They lie about their previous partners to make themselves look less wild than they really are. They lie about how their last relationship ended to absolve themselves of any and all responsibility. They have no accountability at all. The list goes on, but the main reason females lie to their boyfriends and husbands is to cover up cheating. Yes, there are many different lies, many different reasons for those lies, and many different times they lie. But the number one reason women lie to their significant other is to cover up infidelity. Regrettably, most men out here lack even a basic understanding in terms of knowing when they're being lied to by a female. They think they know when their women are lying to them, because maybe she stutters or she looks away when speaking to them. And while these could be telltale signs she's being dishonest, it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface, because females are expert liars and professional cheaters. You think she doesn't know that stuttering and looking away gives her away as a liar? Dude, that's a part of her game plan. Here's a better question. You think she doesn't do these things on purpose to make you think she's lying? Let that sit for a while. Understand this, gentlemen. Women are always 4 steps ahead. They've been lying and cheating since they figured out that men like them. And that starts as early as 14, 15 years old, and sometimes even younger than that. Let me give you a great example. I know this girl. She was having her first child at 13. I met her 6 years later, but I didn't run for the hills when I found out she had a 6-year-old kid at just 19. Admittedly, that one was on me anyway. So now a man asks himself, how can I get better at recognizing when a woman is being dishonest with me? How can I become more proficient at spotting lies? The first thing I'll tell you is that it takes a lot of time and a lot of experience to be able to know when a woman is lying to you. You need to train and have practical experience to get good at detecting lies. The reason I'm great at spotting dishonesty is because I've been lied to by a lot of people. In a lot of ways over the years, experience, as they say, is the best teacher. Lying is no different, but to shorten your erudition curve, there are a few steps you can take, and the biggest step you can take is to pay attention from the get-go. Attention goes hand in hand with being prepared. What I mean by this is pay attention to her mannerisms, her body language, her voice inflections, and her verbal cadence from your very first interaction with. Watch her eyes, her mouth, and her micro-expressions when she's talking to you. You need to pay attention to all of these things when you know she's being honest with you. Now, these are going to be things that seem frivolous, things she doesn't have to lie about in the first place. For example, when she says, "I really like aplatini," pay attention when she talks about what kind of shampoo she uses, because you said her hair smelled interesting. Look keenly into what she says. When the topic of family and friends comes up, pay close attention. The reason this is so important is that this gives you what FBI interrogators call a reference point. When she answers questions, she has no need to lie about her voice inflections, her cadence, her body language, and her facial expressions give you that important baseline. You know what she looks, sounds, and moves as when she's telling the truth. This is why FBI interrogators ask basic questions at the beginning of a lie detector. They ask you questions like, "What's your name? Where were you born? What is your sibling's name?" and so forth. This way, when they administer the questions they really want the answers to, they are more likely to detect inconsistencies in your voice, inflections, body language, and your tone. They go one step further and hook you up to a machine that tracks your pulse and your vital signs like heart rate and breathing rate. Then they compare all of this information to your baseline, which they established in the beginning. When asking questions, they know you'll tell the truth about them. Now, obviously, You're not going to hook a woman up to an EKG machine or a heart monitor, but you can do the next best thing, which is to pay attention from the beginning. Most men today are so caught up in the dormitory, fun, and emotion, and all of those dopamine hits. That comes with the newness of a relationship that they sleepwalk through the first few weeks and miss that critical baseline information. That can be used later on when she tries. To be honest with you, guys always ask themselves the same thing when they find out their woman's been running around on them. When you ask yourself, how did I not see she was lying to me? How could I miss this? There are many answers to this question, but the number one reason is that he didn't pay attention and establish a baseline from his very first interaction with her. While this first step is important, it's only the beginning. You have to be able to use this information later on when and if she ever tries to lie to you. And there are many ways to pick up on these things rather easily, provided you've done what's necessary to prepare yourself. Now, I'm not going to go over every single solitary sign your woman is lying to you, because we'd be here until a woman's volume 3 drops. But I am going to give you 7 extremely deceptive ways to tell your girlfriend or wife is lying, specifically about potential infidelity, which encompasses everything from her whereabouts to who she's with, to what she's doing. Before we get started, let me quickly remind you that the release of Woman's Volume 2 is less than a week away. Woman E's Volume 2 will help you decode what women are really saying. When they communicate with you everything from what a woman's true motivations are when they ask you questions on a first date to the things they say early on, that sets up future infidelity and shows you she has a promiscuous past. These are 7 deceptive ways women lie and how to spot them. Number 1. Her story sounded rehearsed. This is where paying attention and establishing that baseline I talked about earlier comes in handy. If you ask her how her day was, and she says something like work was the same old. Kevin in the sales department got on my nerves, but he got off early so I didn't have to deal with him anymore. I went to lunch with Carol, and I had a Cobb. She had a chicken case AEA with sour cream on the side and a Coke with lime in it. The traffic sucked. But I listened to the Girls Today podcast for about 48 minutes, so that helped pass the time, and now I'm here with you. Hot stuff. Now, if this is the way she usually describes her day, cool. There are some women out there that give you every single detail, every single time, but most women don't give this much detail. And if this is out of the ordinary, and let's be honest, it is, it's because she rehearsed it, meaning that's not how her day went. A good way to find out for sure is to ask her again later on, and if she uses the exact same wording, meaning she tells you about the Cobb salad, the chicken quesadilla with sour cream, and Kevin and Sales getting off work, they were definitely rehearsed. Wait a minute, Donovan, if she gives you the exact same details, wouldn't that mean she's telling the truth, my friend? Absolutely not. And here's why. If you ask someone the same question 2 different times, they'll give you the same answer, but they never use the same words or details verbatim. Women always tell themselves when they give you exactly the same story verbatim, but most guys don't realize she's lying because he thinks, okay, she gave me the exact same story, so she must be telling me the truth. Another way to know if she's rehearsed her lines is if her enunciations and voice cadence are different from what they normally are in her base. Again, guys, this is where paying attention comes into play. Number 2, she repeats what she says to emphasize the lie. Let me give you a quick play-by-play here. Let's say you ask your girl, did you and Lisa have fun at the mall? And let's say she answers, yeah, we definitely did. We went to Forever 21 and spent way too much money, but it was totally worth it. We ate at this Chinese place in the food court and ended up at Macy's. We spent so much money at Forever 21, but we were there for so long. We had to get out of there before we spent our entire paychecks. In this example, your girl wants you to believe that the reason she took so long is because she and Lisa spent a lot of time at Forever 21. The reason she wants to drive this point home is to reassure you that she wasn't with Dave, the unemployed garage band guitar player who may or may not have an illegitimate kid with his ex-girlfriends. So she mentions it multiple times, thinking that repeating it over and over will convince you it's true. If she repeats something in her story at least once, she's definitely covering something up. Stay woke, guys. Number 3, she hates someone so much. Let's go back to that first example when your girlfriend told you that Kevin was getting on her nerves. The reason she does this is to throw you off. She wants you to think, man, she really hates Kevin. So you'll have no idea that she wants to be intimate with him. Gentlemen, you need to listen very carefully when your woman talks about a man she can't stand. I can't stand Justin at the coffee shop. Tommy is such a bad person. This bad guy at my job looks like a bad person. These are the musings of a female, and she's trying to convince you. There's no way she'd ever do anything with these guys. But the more a woman talks about how much she doesn't want to hook up with him, the more she indeed wants to hook up with him. He's too short, he's married, he's ugly, guys. None of that matters. She thinks enough of this guy to mention him to you multiple times. Besides, how does she know Kevin left work early? Which leads me to number 4. She gets irritated when you quiz her on the details. So let's say you ask your girl, how do you know Kevin left early? And she responds with, that's a silly question. We work at the same company. Then you follow up with, yeah, but he works in the sales department and you work in accounting. That's on the other side of the building. If she gets irritated and responds with something like, Donovan, we work for the same company. Everybody knows when everybody gets off, then she is definitely hiding something. If she gets pissed off, upset, or irritated, when you ask for more information, she is lying about something, at which point you need to quiz her hard for more information. Let me tell you a story. While dating this beautiful Ukrainian girl when I lived in Vegas, she had long platinum blonde hair and the most gorgeous steely light blue eyes I've ever seen in my life. We dated for a little over 6 months, and one night I video called her because that's what we always did when we weren't spending the night together. It took her a bit longer than it ought to have this one night to respond. She was someplace on her balcony when she did. At that point, she had never responded to one of my video calls before. Furthermore, she had just finished locking the door to her balcony when the phone rang. Inferring from it that she didn't want to answer the phone inside, I questioned her about why she took the call from her balcony as soon as I developed a suspicion. She informed me as a result of her desire to light up. I couldn't believe that she smoked like a chimney. I instructed her to put out her cigarette and return inside so we could discuss. You're starting to annoy me, she remarked. I responded, I don't care. Put out the cigarette and enter the building again. Why? She asked. Because I believe you have a visitor in your apartment and you don't want him to overhear our conversation. I said. Don't be ridiculous, she commanded. In my apartment, nobody is present. So I demanded, prove it. Tell me you love me. I replied as she glared at me from inside her flat after fiercely extinguishing her cigarette. She whispered, I love you. I held my breath for a moment since I didn't think she would actually say it. It didn't hit me that she had whispered it yet, so she took that opportunity to say it with an attitude. What as if to imply that she had just proved her innocence. I said, walk into your living room and say it louder. She hung up and blocked my number. Long story short, I thought I was her boyfriend, but the entire time I was the side dude. She was cheating on her boyfriend with me for more than 6 months. She's already got her cover story memorized, and when she tells you, she'll be extremely detailed in her explanation. So when you ask her, where the hell have you been? She'll respond with, I left here at 3. I got to Lisa's at 3:15. From there we went to the mall and went to Forever 21. We spent 2 hours there. Then we got hungry and ate a Pan Express at the food court till 5:30. After that, we went to Macy's and spent half an hour there. I dropped her off at 6:15. Guys that detail the timeline, the exact. All that is a dead giveaway that she's lying. Girls will also try to overcompensate by giving very little detail, so their alibi sounds more believable. Her cover story will either have too much or too little information. As I already stated, you don't need to memorize the truth. As a result, your girl is lying if her alibi is either too specific or too vague. 6. She creates excessive eye contact while narrating her tale. I used to check in with my girlfriend after she got home from work before she started working for me to find out how her day went. She didn't often look me in the eye when she spoke to me either. She would be preparing supper while moving back and forth between the kitchen and the dining room, while I would be on the couch trying to unwind after being on the radio. We were used to this. When you and your girlfriend are having routine discussions like, "How was your day?" There is little to no eye contact, but when she does, she's attempting to check whether you're responding to her story by making too much eye contact. Therefore, it is a big hint when she gives you the tale of how Kevin was annoying her, how she was having a solid conversation with Carolyn, and the rest of it while maintaining eye contact. She's lying. Most girls give themselves away even more by maintaining eye contact to make sure you buy them. The best way to handle this is to make expressions that make her think you don't believe her. Things like furrowing your brow or crossing your arms will make her nervous. When you do this, she'll get louder, more descriptive, and more panicky. She'll try harder and harder to convince you she's telling the truth. And when that happens, it becomes obvious to both of you that she is not. Number 7, she uses honest words, for example, honestly, to be perfectly honest, or trust me. So your girl is making too much eye contact. Your face gives her the impression that you're not buying her story about Carolyn, her quesadilla. She's not going to break the script and say, "Don't you believe me?" Oh no. Instead, she'll involuntarily start using honest words. So let's go through this again. So you ask her, "How was your day?" And she immediately locks eyes with you and starts her story. Work was the same old. Kevin got on my nerves, but he got off early so I didn't have to deal with him. Now being aware of who and what Kevin is, and how girls try to badmouth guys they really want to be intimate with, to give you the impression that he's not a threat. You furrow your brow and cross your arms. So now she starts to panic a little and continues. "Trust me, I was so glad he left early. Anyway, I went to lunch with Carol, and honestly, I wanted to get a burger, but I went with a salad so I could stay thin for you. To be really honest with you, I advised Carol she had to monitor her diet if she wants to keep her boyfriend after she ordered a chicken quesadilla with sour cream and a Coke." She escalates more and continues because she senses that you aren't buying her story at this point. But I was able to pass the time by listening to the Girls Today podcast, and I must say, I'm really happy to be with you. These words and phrases are only ever used when there is a verbal tick. I have a number. For instance, I frequently use the phrases, "Listen, and here's the deal." But Donovan, how do you know your girlfriend isn't giving you verbal tics? Easy. Pay attention and establish a baseline, which is exactly what I told you earlier. If you pick up on these verbal tics early on, fine, we all have them. But all of a sudden she starts using honest words, and it's not something she normally does. When people are honest, they don't have to tell you. They're being honest. It's that simple. So guys, what's the most diabolical way a woman's ever lied to you?